All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. And with the Denver Nuggets winning their first championship, does that make Denver, Colorado, one of the best sports cities in America right now, coupled with the Avalanche Stanley Cup victory from last year? We're going to talk about that. We'll also get to Erik Johnson, not so fast with retirement, and Val Nichushkin's grade. Brand new episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. Make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And why not subscribe to our subtext while you're at it? Link to that is in the show notes down below. And when you subscribe, you can chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. All right, we'll get to the Val Nichushkin grade in a little bit. But where we wanted to start, and well, as we're recording this, it is 5-1 right now in favor of the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think it's pretty much official now that the Avalanche are no longer the defending Stanley Cup champions, even though there's still like about 20 minutes to go in that game, barring an unbelievable comeback. And then we look like fools while you're listening to this in the morning. Don't see that happening. So for all intents and purposes, Vegas is your new Stanley Cup champion. But we're going to, golf clap. I'm not even going to do that. But we're going to rewind a little bit as of like 24 hours ago, and then to last season with the Avalanche, and with the Denver Nuggets getting their first championship, and then with the Colorado Avalanche obviously winning the Stanley Cup last year. You have Denver University them winning the NCAA tournament, and who else? The
Colorado Mammoth and the
Mammoth
Lacrosse
won
League.
their lacrosse league. So there's championships all over in Denver over the past couple years, right? This is not like over the course of like 10 years where they've accumulated this stuff. And obviously you need the Broncos to maybe chip in. They haven't in a little while. And the Rockies are a whole nother fluke right now. They are the ones that you're going to have to be like, that might be a little while for them. But right now, I mean, with the ones that we just listed within the last 2 years, there's a lot of professional and even at the collegiate level championships in the state of Colorado. And you have to think it's one of the best sports states going right now.
Denver is title town. And you know what? Ball Arena is the cathedral of title town. I mean, it was nice to see Ball Arena rocking last night. That was, or the night before now at time of the episode dropping. Like it brought back a lot of memories. Yes, it was nice to see Denver finally win their first, but it felt like, I remember when that was the Avalanche. And you could, it was kind of bittersweet, but you know that Denver is where it's at right now. And I think sports fans as a whole are kind of putting their eye on Denver. Like, what's going on there? They're really getting it together. And like, you could even track down, like, if you want to get real technical with it, like Kroenke, he owns the Rams.
He's on fire.
Talk about,
good Lord.
Talk about picking the right places to be. But he's like, with the Rams, he's got a Super Bowl. And I mean, let's be real. Like the Broncos, they have a chance. They're putting,
I think, a lot of fans are thinking like, who could be the next one? And clearly it's probably the Broncos over the Rockies. The Rockies seem like they have a lot of work to do.
They're sitting at sub 500 right now. So.
Yeah, it's just, and I don't know, but for Denver and just for the Broncos, I'm saying, and even for football in general, whenever a new season starts, especially with the Broncos, they're going into last year, people were excited about the Broncos season, and it just fell flat. Yeah. I mean, you felt like they got a shot this year. And you kind of have that same feeling again this year. Can they win it all? It's probably going to take a Herculean effort to do that. But I think they will be a much improved team. And I'm not going to sit here and dissect the Denver Broncos, but just in terms of keeping this momentum going in the state and in the city of Denver, I think they can at least do that. I think they can at least give, because the people of Colorado are buzzing right now, clearly with just like they were a year ago with the Avalanche. And you said, like, when you're watching the Nuggets, I'm like, I wish it was the Avalanche. I've been doing that with this Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
I've been doing, like, man, like, I can't believe that was a year ago already. And, they're going to be officially dethroned, and that's fine. That is what it is. But you saw the one thing that I did miss watching the Nuggets game was I so wish the Avalanche could have won it in Ball Arena.
Oh yeah.
Because seeing that crowd there, first person, celebrating like they were for the Nuggets, like, man, like, and having the best trophy in sports, and that celebration in front of that home crowd would have just been the icing on the top. So that I do miss.
And this conversation around Denver being a title town, like all the everydayers that were with us last year, as we were talking about the Cup run, we kept talking about like how Colorado Avalanche, they're kind of viewed as like this little mid-market team.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's just Colorado, the games are on late, so everybody in the East Coast doesn't pay attention. It's hard not to pay attention to Denver sports right now, especially with we talk about like Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Cale Makar, like superstars in the NHL. Even though they're not competing for the Cup this year, those names are still being circulated in highlights and Cup packages. And now you have the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
They're now the kings of the NBA world, and they have been wire to wire. Like they had a really good season. And then you have the Mammoth, and then of course the hype going into Broncos season. They got former Auburn quarterback Jared Stidham now, so things are turning around for the Broncos.
Hey, look at that.
So we were talking like on that Cup run, like nobody really pays attention to Colorado sports. It's always just kind of an afterthought until they're into the championship. But now it seems like Denver sports are in every championship and they're involved. And I think rising tide raises all ships. I think this is just good for Denver and Denver sports.
Absolutely. And you even have, and I don't know how good they're going to be this year, but you have, the Deion Sanders factor coming in to coach the Buffalo. So even if your team is maybe not like a favorite to go in, like there's still excitement around specifically the football teams with, the Buffaloes and the Broncos. So, and I don't know, man, like that turns some like people like free agents.
Yeah,
that turns their attention to like the area and say like, hey, like they're doing something in Denver. And I know the sports are different and everything is different, but when you have a good run, at least some, I'm not saying all of them, but there are some that be like, hey, like they got something going in that state and in that city. Let me give it a shot. Obviously, the Avalanche have a good nucleus and a good team. You can attract some guys out. Now, the numbers and everything need to match up financially. It's not just a given. And the same thing now when you're a defending championship team, like the Nuggets will be next year, that's always something that gets people to turn their head towards you and your arena and your fans.
And I loved when the Nuggets won the championship, I went to go, share the Locked On post about it because, hey, that's Denver. That's family, the roommates of the Avalanche. I go to post that, and Landeskog and Makar have already posted congratulations to the Nuggets before I even get over to the app to do so. So,
Right.
like you mentioned, like free agents, like there's this whole like Denver sports vibe that everybody feeds off each other, and it's like one big cohesive unit, and that's appealing. Like that's super fun. Like you see, like Taser was at the early round in the playoffs, and so was McKinnon. Like seeing diverse sports, visit the other sports while they're playing.
Sure.
I mean, that's super fun to see.
You saw there's so many people at that game.
Yeah.
They showed Peyton Manning all the time. Sean Payton was there. And then you had even there was like some rappers there.
Yeah. Erik Andre was there.
Erik Andre was there?
Yeah.
I must have missed that part. Really? Wow, that's funny. I'm sure Trey Parker and Matt Stone were there. They're huge Nugget fans.
Yeah.
So it just brings out the celebrities and the people, and it just drums up excitement. So I am looking forward to seeing this parade, because the Avalanche had a good one. Yeah. They had a really good one, and I'm looking to see if it is outdone by the Nugget faithful. It could be, but they have to put on a show to beat out that Avalanche one, because that was pretty epic.
It was.
So. All right. Let us hear from FanDuel right now, and then we will continue with Erik Johnson. Not ready to call it quits just yet. But FanDuel, I mean, where do we go from here now, Kyle? I mean, the NBA season is over. The NHL season seems like it's likely over. You have baseball, and this is kind of like that time of the year where all the focus goes on baseball. We don't have like the Summer Olympics until next year. But once you do, no matter what, you can find, this is the fun time of sports betting, because you can go on FanDuel right now, and there is so many fun and exciting things and prop bets that you can do over on FanDuel. So head over there right now, because new customers, you get that no sweat first bet for up to $2,500. That is not a typo, Kyle. $2,500 on a no sweat first bet. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Make sure to download the FanDuel app. They have great promotions every day. It's safe and secure, and you get your winnings instantly. There's no better place to bet all sports or playoff action than America's #1 sports book. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get that no sweat first bet up to $2,500. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, it's the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the NFL. There we go. All right. Erik Johnson, he's one of those guys where we've talked about him in the past. We gave him his season grade already. And he's one of those guys that is kind of just floating in the breeze right now. We don't really know what the plan is for him. Maybe I would assume the Avalanche have some sort of plan on if they want to bring him back or not. I'm sure they've, in some fashion, in some way, have talked to him about it, if they plan on bringing him back or not. But from the outside looking in, I could have seen one of two things happening. The Avalanche moving on from him, just because he's not the same Erik Johnson, and you don't really expect him to be at this stage in his career, or he retires. And I thought he is just so connected to this team and the city. We were just talking about it in the first segment. You were saying with Cale Makar and Gabe Landeskog immediately putting up stuff to support the Denver. Like, he's part of that. He's part of all of that. So I thought he'd probably retire if the Avalanche didn't want him back. I don't know that part of where the Avalanche stand on if they do want him back. Regardless of that, Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts podcast said Erik Johnson has no plans to retire. So he plans on playing next year. The question is it going to be with the Avalanche or not?
All the everydayers that listen to every grade that we have given out so far, and we'll get to Nichushkins in a little bit. Do you remember when we talked about Erik Johnson? Do you remember how many points he had last year in 63 games? I'll ruin it for you. 8. In the regular season, he had 8 points.
And how many goals did he have?
0.
Goose egg. Yeah. And we're not sitting here again. He's a defenseman, and he's not out there to score, points or anything like that.
Yes, so, I get all of that. And I get everything that Erik Johnson has done for the Avalanche and throughout his career, it's all wonderful. It's all great. I'm just asking a straight up hockey question.
Mm-hmm.
This is going right to the ears of Joe Sakic, Chris McFarland. Why?
Why would you want to?
What?
The only answer to that, the only answer to the why is because two things. Because you would need some depth on the defensive side, and he'll be cheap. But
he better be cheap.
Oh, he will be cheap. but the question for Erik Johnson is, how much of a cut are you going to take? Like, you just came off $6 million a year. You are getting nowhere close to that. You might not even get $2 million a year with the Avalanche. Maybe there's some team out there that is just looking to fill up some roster spots and, hey, let's get Erik Johnson on our team. Not, the Stanley Cup winning Erik Johnson on our team. You know what I mean? Maybe they got some money to throw around, but does he want to do that? Would he want to go from the Avalanche to one of these, these bottom teams? No, I can't see him wanting to do that just to keep playing the game.
You could say Chicago. We know what you're trying to say.
They would do it. Chicago would do it in a second. But does he want to do it? But Chicago has some pull right now because of the Bedard factor. They really do. And even though that, it's going to take a few years for that, maybe he goes there to be a father figure or something like to this guy, knowing that the season's going to be a strain. But God, like you are taking a dive going from being on this Avalanche team to that. And he's obviously very tight with Gabe Landeskog, but he's not playing next year. I don't know how much that factors into it. I think, if they offer him, hey man, like, here's $1 million, God, I'm with you, man. Like, I don't know why. I love you. I love what you did for the franchise, but at some point you have to move on. You cannot be just so beholden to these guys that you've had around for a long time. It sounds good. It's nice that you're loyal to players. You don't hear a lot of franchises doing that, but at some point you need to cut the cord with some players. And I just feel like Erik Johnson is one of those guys right now. And I hate to say that, but it's just the reality.
And I'm honestly, look, I love Erik Johnson. He is incredible. He's an all-time Av in my book.
Yeah.
But I'm tired of every offseason. Like after the Cup, it was he could ride off into the sunset. He's done all he's set up to do. I know injuries catch up to him. This is where he should retire. He didn't. Last year, it was the equivalent of watching Stone Cold Steve Austin come back out at WrestleMania last year, and you're like, oh, it's Stone Cold. But then you see him now, and it's like, oh, he's aged, and he can't do the things he used to do. And the magic wears off, and you're just sitting there like kind of feeling just That's how I felt with Erik Johnson towards the end of last year. Like, yes, that's number 6. That is the Condor. That is him.
Yeah.
We're paying him $6 million, but that's not the Erik Johnson that I fell in love with. He does not play the same. The game has gotten too fast for him. He's just not.
There it is.
It's there's nothing there, and it's almost sad to watch the game blow by him with all the love and everything he's done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to watch that for another year.
Like, I don't feel like I mean, if he wants to continue playing, whatever, like he can continue playing. I just feel like he might need to find a team that fits where he's at with his age and this this stage of his career. And I just don't feel like the Avalanche are it. The Avalanche, their game plans are predicated on speed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're not going to have every single guy on your team that's a speed. If you could make up with it for defensive play, and he's gotten to be just okay on the defensive end. He's not. I don't really feel like he's so much of a liability, but he'll make a great play every once in a while. And I just feel like it's the style of play that the Avalanche play right now. He can't keep up with that. So a team that's like kind of like thrown around in my head right now, he could probably do some good on a team like the Islanders.
I was just about to say he is like the Islanders would be that slow slog. Yeah.
That's they're not going to outscore you. Like they play a methodical game that's not exciting. I think that's kind of where he's at right now. And Carolina. I don't know so much to I don't know if he could go to Carolina. No, I don't. No, it just doesn't seem like a fit for me.
Let's start Googling all the NHL cities closest to the, like, with racetracks very close to the arena, like horse racing.
Dude, yeah, Islanders. It shares the plot with the Belmont. Like, it's right there. I didn't even think about that. That's perfect. So you heard it here first, folks. Erik Johnson's going to the Islanders. No, I don't know, but I mean that makes sense. Right now, Erik Johnson and the Avalanche doesn't make sense.
No.
Only if you're just trying to fill a roster spot and he comes on the cheap. So I don't know, man. Like he says he doesn't want to call it a career, and I get it. Like it's tough to, when this is your life. It's tough to leave the sport in any sport. But for, if he doesn't want to call it quits yet, I kind of feel like the Avalanche just have to. You like I said before, man. Like there comes a time where, hey, we appreciate everything that you've done for us, but we got to let you go. And the Avalanche have shown that they don't let the Avalanche bring guys back. They try to get out, but they keep pulling me back in.
Yeah, Jack Johnson.
And Matt Nieto, and like they like bringing guys back. So we'll see. I'll say this: if if they do sign him, would you be upset?
It's all
everything that we've said. What's up?
If it's anything over $1 million, yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. So we will wait and see. Last thing we are going to get to today, and that is obviously our season grades, and we're getting through these alphabetically. Next up on the list, there he is, Mr. Val Nichushkin, and I was really interested to see how the voting on this would go. I thought there was going to be more, and there were a lot of people who downgraded him because of the issue that happened in the playoffs. And there were some people that didn't defend what he did in the playoffs, or didn't do in the playoffs, but said, like, I'm not going to grade him based on that. So you got a little bit of both. And you had grades across the board, A, B, C, D, and F. You had votes for all of them. But for the social medias, for YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, he got all Bs. But if you look at the percentages, he didn't hit 50% in any of them.
Yeah.
He got 47% on YouTube, 46% on Twitter, and 49% on Instagram. So that kind of shows you like how the votes went all over the place. And Kyle and I, this is 2 in a row where we've had the same grade. We had the same for Alex Newhook. We have the same for Val Nichushkin here with a C+. So we'll get to his stats in a minute, but why'd you go with C+?
Honestly, the way he started the year, it was on a tear, and then it kind of cooled off, and really cooled off.
Injuries didn't help.
Yeah, injuries did not assist him at all, and then the playoffs happened. You get a 75%, like that's a C+. Like it's there's so much to be said about what happened in the Cup playoffs. That's one thing. Just based off regular season, it's a step back in production. Yes, I know injuries, but again, the same thing we asked Newhook, like this was a perfect opportunity for you to step up, and it just wasn't there. He didn't hit that. Like the beginning of the season, he was on fire, and that was it. There was no consistency throughout the rest of the year.
But I think the injury really, like, he had that foot injury, and that didn't fully heal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but despite that, he started off the regular season very, very hot. And like you said, like, he cooled off a little, but he was still producing. It wasn't like he fell off like a cliff. Like, he was doing okay. And I was just waiting for, him to feel like he was as close to 100% as possible. And then I just felt like the stats would continue to climb because we have 18 goals, 30 assists, 48 points. That's in 55 games. And he only played 2 postseason games. And he only had 1 goal, I think it was. Yeah, he had 1 goal in the postseason. So he really had 47 points in 53 games. You would think, that's not bad for him. And I think if you, extend that out to a full season, he's in the 70s.
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's not bad for Val Nichushkin. And where I kind of, ding him a little bit is the expectation for you, and that's the word I use for all of these, is like you just signed a big deal.
Yep.
You just signed that. This is the first year of your 8-year contract where you're getting over $6 million a year. Now that whole honeymoon stage with Val Nichushkin of like, hey, like we plucked him out of nowhere and Dallas just threw him to the curb. We had a couple years of that, and that's still going to be part of his story, and that's still a very good story. That's gone now. Why? Because they gave you 8 years of over $6 million. Now you need to start playing like that contract. And did he in the first season? I think the return on that is a little bit iffy because of the injuries. And then you get to the postseason, and I'm not gonna yell at people if they want to say. I mean, there were some people that were like straight F for what he did in the postseason. I get it. I'm not going that far off a cliff, but and again, if you've listened to this show, like where we stand on the Nichushkin thing. We're not going to just jump to conclusions on it, but I still will ding him a little bit because it even happened.
Yep.
I have to. I feel like I kind of have to because we've said it before. He's a big part of this team, and he wasn't there.
That's what I was going to say, and you brought it up. This was the first year of the new big Nichushkin deal, and when we needed you most, you did the most boneheaded thing in the playoffs, and you weren't there when we needed you. That's why my grade is the way it is. He lost a whole letter grade because of that in the playoffs. If he would have played the rest of the playoffs, it would have been a B+. But
yeah,
this is not what you want to see after we gave you the beautiful deal, and this is what happens in the playoffs. Whatever ends up becoming the final story on what did or did not happen, you still have to handle yourself a little bit different in the playoffs. I know there's a lot of people that handle it like no distractions. I don't even talk to my family during this time. Like, you have to handle it like this is what you play for. This is the big moment. And this is one of those contracts. We're going to be talking about Nate's super massive contract forever and ever and ever. We're going to be talking about this one too. And the first year, this is how it ends. You're going to be looking at this contract. We just got done talking about Erik Johnson and that massive $6 million a year contract. We don't want to be looking at Nichushkin's the same way. Like, you remember when we thought this was a good idea? We can't get a full season out of him. And you remember how it started. You don't want this to be a trend. You want to see him step it up. And going into next year, he has to step it up. He has to prove it to the fans, the team. He's got to get back out there and get back to the Nuke we fell in love with.
Yeah.
But, I mean, on the ice, he's a fantastic player, stays out of the penalty box. He plays the games. We talk about it all year long. When he's not in the game, you feel it. Sure. And you need that presence next year.
He's their best forechecker, and he's one of the better ones in the league. The 2 penalty minutes. We were talking about that before we recorded. You still have that up there from like his go over his career year by year in penalty minutes. Just list them off.
Okay, we will start 2013, 2014, 8 penalty minutes. Then the next year, 2.
Okay.
12.
Yep.
Get this one. 2018, 2019, his last year in Dallas. 57 games played, 0 penalty minutes.
Okay, keep going.
And then comes to Colorado, gets tied for his career high with 14 penalty minutes.
Oh, bad boy.
Then 4, 14 again, and then last year 2.
Why do we never hear of Val Nichushkin and being up for the Lady Byng Award? Because that's really what they look at for the Lady Byng is penalty minutes. Like it's how they phrase what it is like gentlemanly play and stuff like that. You're looking at penalty minutes, and he is consistently at the is like next to none, and he's never in the. Nathan McKinnon won a Lady Byng, and Val Nichushkin, I don't feel he's ever been nominated for it. I can bring up his hockey reference real quick, but that's kind of shocking to me that he hasn't at least been in that conversation.
And he's always like chirping. He's always jawing. He's always throwing a fist or a punch, but he's never in the box. And
yeah, but it's not like malicious. Like he is a level-headed guy.
Very.
In 2021, he did get some Lady Byng votes. He did. 50. Let me see.
Good voters doing their research there. They must have phased those out.
Yeah. No, he's way down. No, he was 52nd. So he doesn't.
So you're saying there's a chance
he doesn't really get it, which is surprising. So I don't know how far down he was, but he was way down. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So I don't know, like a kind of a fluky year for Nichushkin. Obviously ended the way that it ended. You have people that just are not happy about that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to completely just shred his season apart and give him just a failing grade for it. But whatever happened, which we still are completely unsure of for him personally. But the fact is, like, yeah, it hurt. It hurt the team that he was not there, one reason or another. So that's where we are with Val Nichushkin. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode. Fire away in the comments section if you want to throw his grade in. If you didn't get to vote on it, want to throw it in the comment section, feel free. And what's your take on Titletown, Colorado, as we're saying right now? All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in and making it your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. He's Mr. Kyle Sullivan, Shaggy Von Doom. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.